are the beginning of
our lightworker movement.
We're
currently lightworkers in the closet up to today. Whew, why do you think it's taken us so long?
I think for me personally, I'm still working on not being judged by others, wanting to be perceived by the public and fit in and not be judged.
Because we're saying some things that are going against the grain in a pretty big way, huh?
And it goes against a lot of things that have been programmed into a lot of people, and we seem like the crazy ones. We seem so it's hard to go against something that everybody else sees it a different way.
As what's normal, right, in our society, from family cults, cultural cults, the music industry, the food
media,
industry,
the food, the schooling system. Everything about this current reality is not what it appears to be. When did you find that insight where it's like, oh, I've actually been in this program for a long time, and how do I deprogram myself?
Oof.
What was it for you?
I would say it started maybe around 2018. It started when I went to Bali. For the first time, I read this one book, the Eckhart Tolle book, right? Which
A New Earth.
A New Earth. For me, what it did is it allowed me to understand that I was not my ego. Because for the longest time, I thought that all these thoughts that I had in my head...
So it was the voices in your head that serves as your ego, but that you identified with.
Exactly. I thought that was who I was, but then I understood, no, I am the awareness behind those thoughts. And once I was able to separate that, it felt like a relief. It felt like, oh my God, okay, so you mean to tell me I'm not this like crazy person that's always worried and people pleaser and all these things that both you and I have dealt with from the family cult, from all these systems that we just talked about.
Did it start for me? I think at my lowest point of nothing's going right for me, I'm stuck, I'm in this victim state, why is this happening to me? Getting to a point of saying, there has to be a reason. What is the reason? And my logical brain always tries to find answers and solutions. And I got to a point where I was searching through the mindset of things. I follow the biggest mindset, Tony Robbins, Oprah, Andy Frisella, because I felt like I had to grind through the emotions. I had to push through it. And I said, I have to get out of this. I'm so resilient. But it wasn't until I understood my emotions that I had to work through my emotions, not the mindset of how things should be. And so that's when I tapped into through the books of The Alchemist.
Oh, The Alchemist.
The Alchemist was the book that it was such a soft feeling of relief of, wow, somebody else thought this way. And now I'm able to see life through a different lens and a deeper sense of seeing the patterns or we've always been chasing one thing or the other, but in reality, all of the answers lie within.
It's funny that you say that, because when I think about in our journey of awakening, right, the most consistent thing for you has been pattern recognition.
Yes.
The most consistent thing for me has been my emotions. And that is in our human design,
and
right?
we've been trying to run away from it. That's the thing, is leaning into what's so natural to you already. For me, it's the pattern recognitions, and I find patterns everywhere, even the most surface level thing of a bird on a tree. Like I find meaning in that and extract the meaning. And I think that's how I'm able to connect to people. Instead of saying it directly with the answers, hey, you should be doing this, this, and that, is I make a story out of it. And for you, it has been the emotions. And you're like, why am I so emotional? But writing the waves of emotion has been the most meaningful for you.
100%. And when we came together, right, it was this beautiful compliment of, you helped me understand the pattern, I would help us understand a new concept or introduce a new concept. And together it was like little by little we started really like synthesizing that information into our own lives, to the point where every single thing that we were experiencing, we were like, oh my gosh, there's a deeper meaning.
Yeah, there's an answer to this, why we're experiencing it. So we were able to get out of the victim state of saying, oh, I guess this is how it's supposed to be. And we said, no, but through different types of lens, like a positivity, but it's an opportunity to dig within. And that's where
all the answers lie within.
Why do you think it's so scary for people to go within?
Oof, because we don't want to open our Pandora box, you know, because I remember one of the hardest things, and when I was going through my spiritual awakening, was I had to come to terms with a lot of things that felt very heavy. You know, they were hard pills to swallow. Like, I had to recognize I was in my ego a lot of the times, and I allowed my ego to completely take over in all areas of my life. Like, for example, corporate America, right? I wanted to be number one, and I wanted to, like,
the recognition,
get the recognition, get the praise, but I didn't know that at the time. I just was seeking all this validation coming from the ego, not from my true soul and what I'm here to do.
The main tool that I used to look within, I think it was the answers didn't resonate with me, the mindset didn't resonate with me. All these different tools, it was until the feeling of saying, okay, it makes sense to me. And I think that was a little bit like carving down and doing the inner work, even though it hurt. It was a good type of pain. It was like a pain where I get to work on myself, and things started changing for me. So new insights, new positive outlook, things started changing around me and for me and inside of me as soon as I allowed myself to go deeper in understanding the why. So I guess the tool was just introspection within.
All of that, and I'm going to introduce the thing that for both of us, when we learned this about us, it was like, psh. So one day I came home from work, my corporate job, and I was really emotional, and I had all this emotion built up, and I started crying. And I got my phone and I Googled, why do I feel so much? And the first result that came out of Google was, are you an empath? And I'm like, well, what is an empath? And when I went deep, and I went like, anytime I become a little bit obsessed with something, I go deep. And so I learned, oh my gosh, I'm an empath. And I think around the same time, you also were introduced to the term empath. And I feel like when we discovered, like, wow, we feel very deeply, and we feel our own stuff. We feel the stuff of the people around us. We learned we were projectors, and then that elevated us to a whole new level of awareness in our energy, right?
And I think it is we're on this path and we get swayed away by the tools of the new age, the ayahuascas, and try this and do
Which
this.
We did everything. We have done it all, okay?
But we looked outwards, you know, the tools of do this to get you into an altered state and do all this stuff, when in reality it was guiding us back to our Pandora box within.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, we don't even have to spend all this money and all this time and craziness and yes, those are tools out there, but in reality it's all, the answers are within
us, right? And that's huge, because for a part of our journey, we went down the whole, like, doing the plant medicine, doing, you know, these retreats and all this stuff, that at the end of the day, we were seeking that, like, teacher, right? To tell us what to do. But at the end of the day, we can't do that, because all of the answers are already within us, and we can't be offshoring our healing or having somebody else be like, well, if you do step 1, step 2, and step 3,
and you're done.
You're good. There are many dark nights of the soul, right? How many times have we had our breakdowns, our moments where we're so, like, just falling apart, our life just feels so chaotic, and we feel lost, but out of that, right, how much beauty and power comes out of it, because in those moments it's like that somehow releases something for each of us, to where we can then move on to the next thing that needs to be uncovered and worked on.
So it surfaces in a way for us to look at it. It's like, all right, there's something you need to work on with this, where we do a certain action, or we're still acting on our habit, or I'm still attracting, the
same repetitive pattern
with a different name. Whereas, like, this is the lesson that you have to learn for yourself, graduate from. If not, it's going to continue coming up for you to work on.
100%. And I think we can both spot those patterns for each of us, right, in our own lives. I really started opening up to the whole concept of energy, I would say, when I watched this Netflix documentary called The Secret. And I was like, oh, what? Like, what I think is what, you know?
And mine was Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about energy and how you can move, and how he was able to heal himself through his thoughts. So that was my introduction to Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural.
Becoming Supernatural, yeah.
Perfect. we've always been in each other's life ever since college, and I think we didn't really connect in this level because it was college, and then there was a Hispanic club, and we were in the same crowd, and
Yeah,
we
but
went to the same Big Four accounting firm.
Yeah.
So our life has always been super aligned with doing things together. Like
Right.
both
Even-
born in Mexico,
Mhm.
so many different alignments, but it wasn't until
And we randomly met in LA when we were in our
Yeah.
corporate jobs, right? And it was like we didn't think anything of it, but it was like somehow all the things that have happened for each of us individually in our journey have led us to now be in the same state. And like you were in a relationship, I was in a relationship, then we both got out, then we both went in, then we both got out. It was like always in the same, almost the same couple
that's
of
why
weeks.
we're soul sisters.
Yeah.
We have a soul contract together that we have uncovered through seeing all these patterns within our own lives of how we have continued to come back to each other. And
Yeah.
it's almost like you both are helping each other.
Because think about it, how
alive.
difficult it would be if we didn't have each other to like remind ourselves of
give
this.
up.
We would have given up a long time ago, but it's like the fact that we have an accountability partner in the spiritual realm.
We're each other's mirrors
Mhm.
a lot of times.
And what I find really fascinating is that we literally are like a yin and a yang. Everything that we do opposite. I'm an Aries, she's a Libra, which are the sister signs, like 180 degrees across. So where she sees black, I see white, you know? And it's so cute. I find that very fascinating how like even the way we process information, she does it one way, I do it another way, but we still accomplish, you know, what we need to accomplish. It's just from a totally different perspective, which is beautiful.
And that's why we help each other. But it wasn't the soul contract started when I was very open and vulnerable on social media. And she reached out because she was also finding answers within herself. And she was like, well, she might be going through the same thing.
She sounds like she's going through something that I'm going through, so let's connect.
So she reached out, and we ended up just having hours-long conversation about our spiritual journey, and ever since then.
It was like we had our quarterly check-ins. Always at the quarter, by the way.
Yeah.
How funny. Our quarterly check-ins at the quarter. Our soul is always existing. It exists beyond this lifetime. It has existed in many other lifetimes. And more likely than not, the people that are closest to you have been with you in other lifetimes. Brenda and I have a contract in that we agreed to be in this present time, in this current reality that we are in, which is not the most easiest, I would say.
It's one of the hardest.
To take on a lot of work that is going to require us to, first of all, do it for ourselves and to clean our own baggage, clean our own trauma to be able to actually then help others be able to do the same. So our souls agreed to do this together because we volunteered to come to this planet.
We chose it. We chose this for us.
We chose this, and we chose everything else that has happened in our lives.
Every person that comes.
Every heartbreak.
Every interaction, every experience, every great thing, every bad thing. We're just catching up to it, and we chose this life, and we chose everything and everybody in it in order for us to do it for ourselves, heal, and then help others and guide others in their path.
And that's where the term that we often say is that we are light workers. And at the end of the day, I think it was within the last year or so that we really understood, and that resonated so deeply within us, where we were like, oh my gosh, that is why we are being tested in the way that we're being tested. We became aware of all of these things at such a young age. And again, always coming together, even though we've went our separate ways, always being brought back together to remind each other that we do have this soul contract of being light workers and ultimately helping others get rid of all their limiting beliefs, their trauma, the hurt, so that they can actually return to God, which is what we're all supposed to do.
Because we are that in us, in our hearts. We are that one. We are God within us because God is unconditional love.
Exactly. And the God that we have grown up with has been this condemning, like harsh father figure of like,
punishment.
You know, you're not worthy, you're born a sinner, you're born this. And it's
shame, guilt.
You know, all this stuff that doesn't feel nourishing, it doesn't feel loving, it doesn't feel kind. So most of us immediately when we hear that, we've already been like, ugh, I don't even want to think about it.
That's why, like, in the Catholic Church, right, it's like you have to go share your sins, and it's like it keeps us in a way separated for, yes, doing a lot of bad, but it's also, what does all these programming do to us? It takes us lower in frequency,
Yes.
which is shame is the lowest frequency.
Guilt, shame,
fear,
all low vibrations that keep us feeling small.
Yes. And that's why we have all these things in our head, and that's why we hold ourselves back, and all these limiting beliefs and thoughts and egos keeps us in that surface level.
All the things that we grew up believing are things that our families believed and their families believed and so forth. So it's really like when we say we're breaking generational patterns,
Literally.
like we're not just talking about like, oh, we're single in our 30s, not married, which that is a pattern, right? We're talking about like, no, it's the religious beliefs. It's the fear-based mentality. It's the feeling like we're not worthy. My God, worthiness is probably at the core of all of our wounds, right?
Yeah, that's my biggest one for sure. A light worker shines the light on your shadow for you to work on to heal.
And we all have a shadow, right? If we were to stand on that light over there, we would see our own shadow because we all carry, again, it's not just the stuff that we face in this lifetime, it's the generational stuff. It's the stuff from other lifetimes. It's the stuff that we genetically are imprinted when we are in our mother's womb. We are taking in our mother's pain, her mother's pain, etc. It's all being passed through our genes.
Through the wounds, through the ovaries, like it's all being passed down. And the closer you get to light, the closer you get to unconditional love, the bigger your shadow is to work on and heal
100%.
that.
Because then you're going deep. You're going into these like core wounds that we all carry, right? The core wounds from we were babies, we were infants, we're in our mother's womb. And that stuff is heavy. And that's why the shadow work is at the core of being a light worker, because you cannot shine more light for yourself and for others until you shine light on your own shadow. And
Say that again. That's so good. Drop the mic. Done. That's it. That's it right
done.
there.
Podcast.
We're done.
It's not love and light. I'm sorry. People in this new age community will be like, love and light and all this stuff. Yes, we are all unconditional love. That is the goal, that we are all trying to give unconditional love. But again, unless we go deep into that shadow side, we're never fully able to give that true unconditional love, because it's always going to be masked by the ego.
And how do you know that? Is if you're surrendering to the ego or surrendering to God. And it's in every single action that you do every day. It's like, oh, am I going to do this? I'm surrendering to the ego. I'm not surrendering to God, because God is unconditional love. And how am I acting in that way?
I know at first when we were in our journey, it was very difficult for us to understand what was ego-based versus what was God-like. If we actually look inside whenever we have a decision to make, we know it. We know when something doesn't feel quite right, but our ego will talk us into, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, you'll be fine. Everybody's doing it, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not the case at all, right? Because all these little actions is what has resulted in our current life. And that's what people don't realize. It's like sometimes people expect these massive things to happen, like a catastrophic event. No, we fall off the path. It happens in the little tiny day-to-day actions that aggregate to then us being in a completely different direction than what we originally desired to be in.
What's the thing that you say that triggers people, that you are a result of your actions? Or
that one didn't. People didn't like that very well. Where it was like, the consequences of your actions, right? I did a little quote where people got so triggered, where you are responsible for the consequences of your actions.
But a lot of people took it in a negative connotation, whereas like, what if the great actions got you to where you're at?
What if you're living your dream life?
I am the consequences of the decision, right?
Exactly.
But a lot of people took it into a negative form right away.
Oof, pain. My God, we can't know pleasure without knowing pain. Right? There's a saying, like, you don't know pleasure unless you know pain. Pain shows us our deepest wounds, right? It shows us the stuff that is so raw within us, right? Where somebody pokes that wound and it's like, it opens up a whole...
alcohol into that open wound. It's like, it burns.
So pain is a direct representation of what trauma or what things from our childhood, from a past life, from the ancestral stuff, is still very open and very vulnerable and raw for us. So it shows us the areas that we need to look at and work on, in my opinion.
And I do see it as every time we're faced with a challenge or a whole 360 of our life changes, it's again an opportunity to get you back on the path of unconditional love, a path back to yourself, a path back to God. Every time you swayed away from that path, I feel like these experiences get you so deep and low into feeling pain and suffering that it allows you to go within, to go back to your path.
And how many times in those, we call them dark nights of the soul, because it's the moments where you are in so much pain that, for me, I've been in the shower, you know, literally in a fetal position, just being like, God, if you get me through this, like, you know, we'll never do this, or
see,
whatever.
surrendering back and
yeah.
increasing your faith and really having faith, getting down to the moment of I have nothing to lose. That's where I was. For some reason, the bathroom is our most safest place because I do remember just crying and just on my knees and saying, I'm done. I can't carry this. I can't
do this anymore by myself.
And this is where you give it up to God and your faith increases and you go back to saying, I have nothing else left than my faith and trusting that if I'm going to survive this, then this is the path.
But it doesn't always have to be that way, right? And one of the things that I think both of us are starting to really like practice and implement is we don't need to get to those points of being so desperate, so like in our knees. We can ask for help at any given moment. You know, we can ask for support. We're not navigating life alone. Fortunately, if we were, we'd be dead by now. You know, so it's being able to have that faith as a day-to-day practice of being like, okay, God, I'm not navigating through this alone. Show me how to surrender. Put my ego in check, like
with everything.
Exactly.
It's not only not tuning into those conversations and prayer just when you need it the most or your most suffering times. It's also I'm going into a meeting and I'm trusting and having faith that this is going to go exactly how it's supposed to go.
Exactly.
And when I'm about to speak or do an event, it's like give me the voice that these people need to hear, and I don't have to overanalyze it with your head. I trust with my heart, and you know I want to make decisions based on being guided through my heart, not through the ego, which stays in the mind.
So good. Is the price we pay for not listening? I would say pain is the consequence of the actions that we made for not listening to our higher self, for not listening to God. So it's a consequence.
Really it is the consequence of. Hey, I almost see the universe and God as this thing of, hey, listen up, and
you ignore the red flags.
If you don't listen to your instinct, if you don't listen to the red flag, you almost get slapped out and say, all right, now you're
paying attention, right? It's like when you're experiencing that physical pain, whether that's a car accident, whether that's a heartbreak, whether that's a loss of something that is really important to you, like a job opportunity or a relationship. It's almost like, oh, that got my attention.
Pay attention to those. Pay attention to the patterns that are happening in your life because those are little instances for you to pay attention. If not, over a long period of time, you will get this huge listening.
Exactly. Yeah. That you can't ignore because at that point you're like, well, I kind of, these are the consequences of my actions.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't think pain or suffering has to be to that level of intensity if you do find the awareness and finding the patterns in everyday life.
Surrender every single day that you possibly can. Surrender to God and not be attached to the ego. I'm really proud of both of us, and that I've experienced so much in our journey of being together is that I think for both of us when we were younger, and by that I mean like 3-4 years ago, whenever something would fall off the plate or whenever, you know, maybe we were really excited about an opportunity, and whether that was like a potential for a relationship or, you know, a career, whatever, now anything that falls through, we move on so quickly, you know, and we're actually like, honestly, I'm glad that didn't work out because later on we're able to figure out how that was not aligned for us, right?
Yeah.
But I remember
we trust that. Now we trust that. But it was the ego was bigger back then. The ego was hungrier to say, this is for me. The entitledness.
I mean, I was in situationships back to back for 3 years in a row. So, for a fact.
Nos ponemos tercas, stubbornness.
I want this
like,
to work.
This is for me.
If
like, who is it?
If I become a new person, he's going to love me. You know, he's going to really see my worth and my value.
Which that's, okay, the ego plays in hand, and also the healing that needs to take place. Like those two. So back to what you're saying, I am proud of us for now. Anything that doesn't go for us is like, oh, that wasn't meant for me, because
and it feels so good.
It feels good to move on from it.
And then we can breathe and we're like, okay, next thing, you know, instead of being so attached to being like, God, I'm so heartbroken that this opportunity didn't go through, you know? Even like something as like our upcoming trip, right?
Yeah.
We could easily have been like, oh my God, we're not going at the end of the year. But now we're like, okay, well that's realigning us for a reason, and we're okay with it.
We listen to the signs. We listen to it, and we are being guided. It feels really good to be guided with yourself, with God, with the universe, with everything around you. It's a guide, and it's beautiful.
Because things aren't happening to us; they're happening for us. There's no such thing as good or bad feelings. There are feelings. Now, some feelings are of higher vibration, positive. Some feelings are of negative vibration. They're limiting. They make you feel small. They make you feel separate from God, separate from Source. Any kind of fear, guilt, resentment, bitterness, frustration, anger, jealousy,
greediness,
all of that. It's not expansive. Matter of fact, in your body, you actually feel constricted. You don't feel
constricted. You need to understand your body so that your body will give you signs of those feelings. If it doesn't feel good to your gut or is constricting, almost like in my head is like a boa constricting me. It's like I can't breathe. But the good feelings that make me feel good is expansive, where in reality your heart is expanding.
And you know what? Most of us, the times in our lives when we experience all these feelings were when we were children.
Yeah.
Because think about it. You experience massive amounts of joy, of love, of laughter, curiosity.
Back.
Yeah, you weren't worried
you
about...
You were so risky. Like, you weren't thinking of, am I going to fall? You just do it.
You just did it. You did things in the present moment.
You were in the present moment.
100%. So.
And we lose that. We lose that through the programming. We lose that through somebody told us this one sentence, and now we made stories from it, and now we're programming the way we do things because somebody told us this way. And we lose our childlike ability.
The moment that we lose our childlike spirit, it's like we're dying. We're not even living at that point, right? Because you're living in a way that is not honoring your true divine essence. You're living out of fear. You're living out of ¿qué va a decir la gente? Of not wanting to make people look bad, or, you know, others look bad, whatever. People pleasing. All these tendencies that, again, they're not truly honoring who you are.
You become somebody that you're not for other people, so it doesn't feel good for you because you're not acting of who you are, your true essence.
And when you see somebody that is the opposite of that, it triggers you because inside, right, like people that carry a lot of light, there was one point in my earlier journey where people that were too optimistic or positive would actually annoy me because I'd be like, how can you be like that, you know, because I couldn't be like that. So you can tell a lot by how somebody engages in life, how they respond to things, whether or not they're actually in their emotions, if they are actually experiencing life authentically, or if they're experiencing life in a constricted manner, playing a role of somebody that they are not, but they don't even know that they're not because their ego is like.
But guess what? They don't even have to say anything because energy does not lie.
Your energetic signature or your energetic footprint says it all.
You can feel it. You don't even need people to speak out because you can feel who they really are.
100%. And everybody, there's not one single person that can't say they haven't felt it because think about it, okay? If you walk into a room and that feeling of like cutting the silence with a knife, you know, that feeling of like, okay, I don't know what happened, but you can feel the eeriness. You can feel the tension, right? Nobody told you anything about what was going on. You picked it up because you can perceive other people's aura, their energy, the footprint, whatever we want to call it. So energy doesn't lie, and it can't be masked. Yeah. Which is actually a really cool topic that maybe we should share with people of like, how does it actually work, right? So at the end of the day, we have our different chakra systems, right? We have the crown, which is all about inspiration. You have the mind, which is thinking and processing things. You have the throat, which is your manifestation, expression, action,
communication.
Exactly. You have your identity center, the I, the ego center, which there's a difference between the ego from the mind versus the ego of your willpower, of knowing your worth, of knowing who you are. And you have your heart, you have your emotions, you have your spleen, your spidey senses, the gut, and the root, right? So all of these different energetic centers or hubs are all sensors.
And then we got introduced to human design, which gave us an indication of our energy. So apart from the chakras, apart from our astrology sign, the human design gives us an indication of our energy and how to work with it. And that was another tool for our little spiritual toolbox.
Yes.
Of saying, oh, I can use this to be better guided. We're not here to put us in a box.
We're not.
It's about being abundant and expansive and using these tools, but it's
using
all
the
working
tools
together.
to get to know yourself better, work with your energy better, and ultimately allow yourself to experience all the range of emotion, all the range of possibility that there is to experience in this current lifetime.